Hi, I'm James from Bellrock. I work with leaders to help them understand the intersection of where risk meets people. Today, I'm with Simon Walsh, who's a good mate and also the CEO of Alambicare. Today, hopefully we're going to cover a little bit, Simon, about, I guess what gets you out of bed in the morning, some of the challenges of the sector, what you see as, the positives and negatives around governance and risk going forward. Welcome and thank you for joining me.
Thanks, James. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to have a chat.
Nice. Excellent. Well, let's just launch into it with the icebreaker.
Yep.
And go, Simon, you're at a barbecue and someone says to you, what do you do? So how do you kind of give me the elevator pitch before all the fancy titles, all the sort of letters after your name? How do you respond if someone says, Simon, what do you do?
Yeah, look, I guess for me, assuming that these people aren't 100% familiar or work in our industry, generally I explain that I work with children, young people and their families. So I work in the sector of, and I explain I work for a not-for-profit, which is pretty important for me. And I explain that I work with young people and people that are at risk of not being able to be with their families at times. And we support families also to try and stay together. So I talk about the fact that, we spend a lot of time trying to invest in families. And I guess I also explain a little bit about, the need for community to be able to wrap around our work. So I talk about the fact that we work within the community context. So I explain that most of our work is about trying to keep kids connected to community, not just family. It's just that broader connection, and so that's probably how I simply, try and put that, to the person I'm talking to. So.
So that was great to chat about that, Simon. But what I'd like to know next is, this is the risk crystal ball question, I guess. So what are the biggest risk and governance issues you see facing the charities sector in Australia? And I guess, what do we need to do about it?
Yeah. Look, that's a really
pretty
broad question.
Broad question.
Look, probably the biggest thing for me is trying to understand or get the community to understand and value the space for not-for-profits within our work. There's a huge increase, particularly with the NDIS, and that's not a bad thing in regards to for-profit services coming into those spaces. Look, for me, an organisation that's a not-for-profit is absolute for purpose. Everything we live and breathe is about how do we reinvest into the work that we're doing and how do we continue to innovate to actually meet the needs of our community. And I'm sure that for profit, so it's not about running them down and it's not about an us on them, but an investment by government money into not-for-profits always sees a reinvestment of that money in the best way possible. So for me, it's about making sure that as an organisation, we take that responsibility on our shoulders and make sure that we're delivering best services and making sure that we can always live up to that demand and need that's there. But for us, it's quite a challenge because as a not-for-profit, your organisation's very clearly scrutinised and seen by a whole range of bodies and a whole range of absolutely, which is needed and it's valued. But sometimes, that has also brought with us its challenges in recent times. Some of the for-profits are a little bit more nimble, able to really look at where those crisis and demand points are, whereas a lot of the work that we're doing in government at the moment sees us being locked into contracts and finding it a little bit more difficult to innovate, I guess. So that's a real risk for us, making sure that our relationships are strong with government and community, which is a challenge at times. But to making, if we can do that, we actually then make sure that, there's no risk of us not receiving the adequate funds that we need for that innovation and for the people we're serving as well. So.
Okay. So you feel like the not the infiltration, but the influence of for-profits in the sector can be a challenge for you?
Yeah, look, it has. It has nationally and internationally. If you look at the UK, the States, there's been a huge influx of for-profit services now to the point where they don't feel like they can wind that back. And it's not about individuals. And I just want to be really clear with that. But, I think the value of a not-for-profit and having them aligned, looking at community and being strongly connected to community, it really does see our funding as taxpayers go to the right place and is actually constantly being reinvested back into things. Like when we started as an organisation, we started as a homelessness service. Any funds that we've received is now, as a result of the funds that we've received over the work over the years, we're now running, family preservation services, foster care, community care. We're actually invested now in a school and have started a school, and that school is closely aligned with our missions and values around making sure it serves the troubled population or the population of kids that are generally at risk of not being in mainstream schools. So that's evidence of how money continues to be reinvested, and how, that's to me a huge benefit to the community. Constantly looking at where the challenges sit within the community and us trying to find solutions to that and reinvesting the people's money appropriately. For profits, sure, they're a business, and there's generally people receiving shares or dividends at the end of that, and that's a real challenge to me, knowing that it's about government money and how it's spent.
Oh, look, I agree, and I will say with the school though, because obviously I did some work with you guys on it. I think that's an incredible achievement to have that, and anyone that wants to, I guess, Google it up or have a look at that space, I would highly recommend it to you, because it's amazing work that you guys are doing. And obviously from my background doing this sorts of stuff, and certainly broadly speaking, being really interested in education as a pathway to giving people opportunities, I just love what you guys are doing with that school, because it's doing exactly that. It's almost like kids that otherwise would potentially fall through the cracks of the system are being given an opportunity to get ahead and create some success and potentially break intergenerational cycles of poverty and things like that. So I think it's incredible.
Thanks, James. And like I said, I've been with the organisation 27 plus years now. And the mission has never changed, which is about we've always evolved or grown based on what are the needs of the young people. So education is such an important piece of work for our children and young people, particularly when you're looking at opportunities in life and what lies ahead for people. If they're not educated, if they don't have those opportunities or those same opportunities, we have that same cycle occurring again. So it's been a big part of our work. And before our school, we had a learning centre, which again, was filling a huge gap in regards to some of those vulnerable kids and families that we serve. So it's been great.
Well, I guess on that note as well, though, what is it? What continues? Because we know it's a challenging sector to work in. What continues to be the motivator that gets you up out of bed in the morning to go and fight the good fight in that space? Like talk to me about what is it like? What do you get out of it, really?
Yeah, that's again, it's a big question, but I just love what I do. I had a really fortunate upbringing with family that was really involved, much like that Newcastle spirit we talked about, like always giving back. So our family did foster care and provided care for lots of kids who come through our family, and that was an incredible experience for me. I learned a lot, and I guess it became very comfortable. And it was comfortable to be actually playing in a space where it was helping people that were less fortunate or needed supports. Had a nursing background, so there was always an element of caring.
I didn't know that.
So that's where I started my career. I went off and did nursing pre the work that I got into, and fell into this work that I do now based on our homelessness work, and it was almost like community nursing, and I thought this was a really valuable space where I could use my skills, and give back, and it really went from there. But I think the thing that gets me up every day is that opportunity to feel like you can do something better. I still feel today that we've got so much to do and so much that we can be doing better. But I'm equally just as, I guess my cup is equally as full with the enjoyment about what we have done. So you reflect on what we've been able to achieve over the 27 years, and you look at, and it's not me, it's a team, but being a part of that, you've got schools and family work, and I guess my big driver is that our industry is full of really transient people. So sadly, people burn out really quickly in our industry. There's a lot of challenges for families. It demands a lot of people.
Yep.
And so for me, it's really important that we don't continue to sort of go over and do the wrong thing. When you've learned something as an organisation about what works or what's going to work better, you really need to invest in that, more. And with that transient nature, sometimes you have this situation where it's a washing cycle, that there are people coming in, going and thinking of the same ideas and going back over and over.
The churn, is it?
Yeah, versus actually learning from things and not going backwards, actually trying to ambitiously get better as an organisation. And that's from a governance point of right through to what you're serving, what delivery you're doing with kids and families.
Yeah.
I have never changed the care element of what I've always cared at the same level, I guess you might say, but there's many things that I wouldn't want to do with a young person now, like in regards to how I would approach working with them.
Yeah.
I'd do a lot of things differently, what I've learnt over my career. And as a result, they're the things that we're trying to then instill in actually making sure that we capture those things and we make sure that our practice then is improving constantly, not, going backwards. So for me, that's what gets me up. I love it. I love our team. I'm inspired by the stories every day. There's just as many challenges that come through the door, but equally photos and conversations and stories of families that have been able to enable them, with a little bit of help, they've been able to be their best selves and supported, within the community. And I love it. Couldn't think of a better job.
Wow, that was a really good yarn. I really liked hearing about that, and I actually didn't realise that you had that nursing background. So there you go. I've known you for a fair while, but I didn't actually know that.
Don't tell a lot of people. No. It was a while ago. It feels like a lifetime ago. So
nice. Yeah. I guess so. Look, keeping it on that pretty personal sort of angle.
Yep.
Lastly, if you were writing a note to your younger self, and I think, for all of us, or I'm certainly the same, that note would contain a lot of things of don't do this and do this better. But I guess what would be, let's say just, a couple of things or three things that you'd put in that letter to yourself that you wish you'd known, I guess that you know now that you wish you'd known 20 odd years ago, or maybe when you first came in to the sector. I don't care whether it's personal or professional or whatever, but what would be three, if you can stump them up, that you'd put in that letter?
Yeah. Look, there's still a few unanswered questions that I've got myself. I don't feel like I'm at the end of my career as such. There's still things that I'm grappling with to try and actually come up with that, so I can pass that on to colleagues and others. Number one would probably be care deeply. In the nursing space before I started, it was always a tricky one. I did a lot of aged care, and you're sort of working with people in palliative care, and I don't think we can work in this sector without actually caring deeply. And if you don't, then you should really rethink.
Your career choice.
And what I mean by that is really value the connection to the work about what makes you get up every day and make sure that's at the centre of everything. The other one would probably be that you are your people. As a CEO, I regularly say to people I feel more useless. Moving on, it's, the more you sort of go through your career, sometimes the less you feel like you're actually got your hand on finger on the pulse per se. So I would say to really value your people and to make sure that you're passing on that value and culture about what you're doing. Really focus on that because the reality is, and everyone asks that question about how big is too big. We started off as a very small organisation. There was 4 people employed when I was employed at Allambie, and you enjoy that growth and being able to give back and what you're doing. But there comes a time where you're really grappling also with not understanding, or not knowing all of your staff as much anymore. Like we have 1,000 staff. Like how do you get to know everyone? But when I say that you are your people, I think that's really important. Like if you can instill and employ the similar and like-minded people, I find I can trust that those things are happening through other people. And I don't have to be involved in everything. I don't have to be the lead. It just means that that can help. So I think, making sure that, like, we try really hard not to have a hierarchical kind of approach to how we work. So I would make sure that that's what I'd be saying is that remember those are some of those key things. Care deeply, making sure that there's no hierarchical kind of approach to it. But some of the things I don't know the answers to, it does impact us. The work that we do deeply impacts staff. Their mental health, their families, you name it. So I would say have an emphasis on understanding that. Don't let it creep up on you. But do I have an answer to how to fix that? No. And do I have here's your life expectancy in our work? No. What I do know is that you need to speak about it. You need to reach deeply into your connections and don't be afraid to talk about the impact that it has on you, the work. But to me, that would be a really important thing is really understanding impact that it has on individuals and how that impacts your personal life equally as much as your professional life. It's so important because if you're not well within your family and your own connections and those things, it's really hard to be hopeful about our work that we do with families needing our support.
Oh, absolutely. And I would imagine that, if you've got too pessimistic a worldview, the work or the sector you guys are in is probably not the place for you because it's, the wins are there, but they're hard. I've seen them. They're hard-fought wins, and
absolutely.
And sometimes you don't get the outcome you're looking for, which must be so heartbreaking as well. But I think it's interesting what you're saying about the impact of people because obviously, look, there's some under sort of lying themes around things like psychosocial safety that are big in my world. I just think that it's interesting now that it is so different even compared to when I came into the workforce 20 odd years ago, particularly as blokes. Like you'd never talk about the psychological impacts of work because you'd be considered soft. Like, well, what's wrong with you? Or, harden up, princess. All that sort of stuff would get thrown at you. But I think it's a very different environment now, both from a legislative perspective, but culturally, I also think it's better that people will speak up more about those challenges, and hopefully that can lead to healthier people that can deliver better outcomes at work because they are more comfortable talking about the challenges they have in that psychological space.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's really trying to unpack it as a team. And if you do approach your work as a team, like you see the same thing as a team, you're looking out for each other. You're able to communicate with each other to say, hey, listen, do you need a break or do you need, but it is, James. And I think any industry that's working on the front line, you've got health professionals, policing, it's all that same stuff. And there always seems to be this thing where it grabs people by surprise or somewhat by surprise. So opening up cultures where you can talk about it doesn't mean that you've got an issue, but checking yourself. And sometimes you've got to ask, I don't know if I do. Do I have, what's going on for me? Just opening up that room for that conversation and making sure that that's normal within your teams is really powerful. Really powerful.
Oh, amazing.
Thanks, mate.
All right. Well, look, thanks for joining me. That's about it. I mean, I feel as usual, we could have a yarn about everything and anything for about the next 5 hours. But I guess we'll wrap it at that. But thanks again, Simon. Really appreciate your time and
no problem.
Keep up the great work.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Nice.
It's been great.
Awesome.